Hello, I'm Jen Piceno, and I have with me the beautiful Cindy Olah, and we wanted to pop on a minute to talk about building sacred sisterhood and opening our heart to building relationships with other women. And Cindy is not only my partner in crime at Fort Alchemy Mystery School, but she also happens to be my bestie. And so I just wanted to chat with her openly because this comes up a lot in our circles, and it's recently came up in Calibration, a course that we're running right now, is how women don't really have a big trust for other women because of past experiences. And we just want to talk about how to get through that and move through that a little bit more gracefully so that you can embark on the richness that good sisterhood and relationships with women can and does have. So
I think those wounds too, they run really deep because I know that you're not the only person that I've talked to who had a more difficult time having relationships with other women. Same here with me. And how sometimes it is so difficult, even when you're a teenager, how girls treat other girls with so much like, or disrespect or jealousy or envy, and that it's it's so common that it's a deep collective wound that I think we're here to address that. I mean, we're in this age and time to address and to heal that wound in order for that sacred feminine quality to be able to emerge. It can't emerge fully if we're all fighting against each other or jealous or competitive
or even just not having trust.
Yeah.
Just as simple as being able to open our hearts and trust another female with our sacred stories, with our own wounds, with our goals, our dreams, our desires, and trusting that we will be seen and held in what we call sacred space.
Yeah, and we were talking about in the calibration course this past week how I mean, nobody really knows where the initial wound came from, but I'm sure it has something to do with the fact that we were all, as women, and our intuitive gifts and our powers were shut down. And that there was basically a war or a whole persecution that was going against us.
Right. And then women attacked women to stay safe. So mothers were
a safety thing.
Right. Mothers turned in their daughters to save their own lives, friends against friends, cousins against cousins, and on and on and on. So it's in our blood and bones from talking about ancestral healing work. That'd be a fantastic place for everybody to delve into to clear and cleanse that part of our lineage. But also in this lifetime, how many of us have had bad friendships that went wrong? Somebody that stabbed them in the back. A lot of times it's relationships with sisters or mothers, so there's layers upon layers that is inviting us to heal at a deeper level. But when we come together in circle, if we can open our heart, like really open that heart space, I think the girls that do that and they allow themselves to move through their fears of trusting another woman, and they really show up and do their spiritual work without a mask on, and they just put it out on the table and like, I'm going to be authentically me, they build the most magical, best relationships.
Yeah, and to the willingness to be vulnerable.
Yes.
Also just be really honest about when those kind of things come up. Because when you get in a relationship, like a woman gets in a relationship with another woman, it's going to come up probably for healing anyways. And you'll either do it or you won't.
No, and it's an art of communication too, right? The way that we have to be able to dance through that together. Like you and we, working together, it can trigger you.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Both of us have had, and we joke about it because thank goodness we're both not Pisces, right? But you know, we work at different speeds and we do things in different ways, but yet we can jam when we come to putting courses together. But we've had to really, you and I both have had to do our own personal work to really trust each other, to
Exactly.
blend our money together, create our course together, to share so openly. We've had to really be very vulnerable and open with each other just to create the content.
Yeah.
You know, it's 'cause
And
that just is, yeah, go ahead.
And I was gonna say, and to open, to feel safe enough to be open for each other's gifts to come in without
Yes.
feeling like, you know, oh, yours is better than mine or mine is better than yours. And,
Yeah, well, let's talk about that, because that's
stupid
so,
little thing, that those conversations that we honestly,
yes,
will honestly have in our brain about, you know, she's better than me or whatever,
they like her better. I mean, that
Yeah.
is something so important, I think, to talk about, because I mean, we both came from the dance world, and this happens in every industry. I know it probably happens on your yoga mats too, but we immediately look to the girl next to us and we start comparing,
Yes.
right? Now, if I compared myself to people who can stand on their head, I'm going to feel like shit about myself.
Right.
But if I look at, okay, well, you know, I'm pretty damn flexible, you know, then if you just own who you are, is what I'm trying to say. That didn't come out so well. Own who you are, because everybody has a set of gifts, spiritual and otherwise, that is unique as your fingerprint.
Exactly.
Even if it's the same gift, like
Mhm.
you can be a seer or a hearer or a knower, but the way that you utilize and use that gift, that's your medicine. It's not supposed to be like anybody else's.
Mm-mm.
It's custom crafted with,
Yes.
you know? So I think that's so important, because I see girls in circles, sometimes they get down on themselves because maybe they're not clairvoyant,
Mm-hmm.
but they're clairaudient and they can hear so clearly,
Yes.
but they're still judging themselves because they can't see what the girl next to them is seeing.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I mean, that's so important, that we have to understand is that we're cultivating our gifts by doing our own internal work. And more gifts will show up, promise you. They
Mm-hmm.
will show up when you're ready for them, but you got to honor the ones you've got, cultivate them, and the energy teaches you how to use them. But if you compare yourself to everybody else, you're always going to feel like you're behind. And you're not behind. You're divinely perfectly placed exactly where you're supposed to be.
Oh yeah, it's such a thing that for some reason it really gets programmed within us from a very young age. Because I remember comparing myself to other girls and you know, middle school, elementary school, and you know, who got the most attention and
Right. Even grades. School sets us up that way,
Mhm.
right? We're all on a grading system to keep
Yeah.
up with, you know, a certain level or a certain way of being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But and I think all of us have went through it through grade school, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's one of those things, though, I think that we're really here in this age of Aquarius that we're moving into to really begin to heal that part of the sacred feminine. Because the
Mm-hmm.
sacred feminine can't emerge, it can't rise if all the women are battling against each other or, you know, treating each other not very nicely or talking bad about each other behind each other's
Mm-mm.
backs and or doing these things that that are not within integrity of that sacred sisterhood. Now that doesn't mean that you're not going to have fights or you're not that you're going to agree all the time, but to be able to have an open conversation about
Mm-hmm.
those things that you're feeling, again, just being willing to express that vulnerability and to talk honestly about what's going on. And
Right. And
and we've talked about before too in another recording about how oftentimes we go onto this path a loner, like all alone, and in a way we do that to ourselves because we don't feel that trust amongst other women.
mm-hmm.
And to, you know, to heal that within ourselves and within the community, then we can start to, I mean, imagine what a big impact and what a big difference we could make if we started to, um, you know, to support each other instead of trying to put each other down.
Absolutely. And the growth that happens from that when we embrace each other, it's a win-win. You know, and not that you're going to agree with everything your friend says. Like me and Cindy agree to disagree all the time,
Yes.
all the time. But that's that open communication with us, you know?
Right.
And I think that from early on, coming into way back from even Heart Fire Retreat, we were very, very open with each other from the beginning. We didn't know it was gonna be anything past that retreat. And it's grown into this beautiful friendship and business partnership and so forth. But that's not by agreeing to everything, because we're helping each other grow just as much as our spouses are helping us stretch and grow. And that takes that honesty, but being able to communicate effectively in a way to say, hey, that's not sitting well with me for whatever reason, that's triggering me. And I know it's not you, but this is triggering me. I need to talk about it, you know? And just sometimes just having that open vocabulary with people in circle, I think makes it easier that you can share that dialect and saying, hey, this is upsetting me and I'm not blaming you.
Yeah.
I need to be able to work through this. Are you willing to help me work through it?
Yes.
You know? And I think that's what we do when we come together in groups is we're facilitating, but helping people work through what is getting triggered. And that is by design. You should get triggered a little bit in every circle. And I say that because that is how you're going to grow the strongest, biggest, and furthest to where you want to go, to be able to really, truly walk your path fiercely. You have to constantly be moving through something to get through it.
Yes.
And I mean, when I did my priestess work, man, I was triggered as hell. I mean, it brings up your stuff.
Yeah.
And by design, you know, we're getting ready to launch initiation again. We only offer that twice a year. But going through the elements and receiving these initiations with each one of the elements will help you move through things that you need to move through. It will
helps you to move through those hurts.
Yes.
Because we're probably, the reason we hold that programming within us is because we were probably hurt at some point by another woman. We were probably, you know, talked down to or left out or, you know,
abandoned,
whatever,
outcast. Even our ancestors, all of the ancestral wounds that are within us, that's held in your blood and your bones.
Yeah. So the wounds are actually very real. It's not like they just came out of nowhere. You know, they're in there and they were real because women were hurting other women and they're still kind of doing it, I guess. Of course. They
are still doing it. And we've all been on both sides of that coin. I think that's really important to remember is there's been times in my life where I haven't been my best, highest self.
Me too.
You know? And there's times where I've been a victim. Right? Now I can hold on to the victim role or I can own my part in it and learn from it and move forward and grow from it to be a leader in sacred sisterhood.
Yeah. And also owning when you were the perpetrator, which I think sometimes is almost harder. Yeah, it seems.
Yeah, but we've all been.
It's easier to almost sometimes to claim the victimhood.
Yeah, everybody wants to claim that one.
Exactly. Instead of claiming when you're actually the perpetrator, when you were the one that did something that wasn't within alignment or was out of integrity.
But that's what I mean. We're all on a different part of our path. There's always going to be two sides to the story, and both are valid. Both are true. Yeah. Right. But there's definitely been times in my life I've been a bitch. Right. Can you too? I mean, and I'm sorry for whoever I may have been a bitch to. I'm a little bit more evolved now, but that in itself teaches you. So I think every experience, good, bad, or indifferent, is a life lesson. Yeah. And if we can take the lessons out of that and move forward into this more of a heart-centered expansion and actually invite people in. Now, I'm not saying go out and be besties with just anybody.
No, right.
Right? Yeah. It definitely, you want to feel honored and witnessed and have that mutual agreement with whoever you befriend. And that makes a big difference, you know, and there's certain people I share very openly with, and there's other people's that I don't. And I think that's okay. And I think that's discernment is something that we all need to learn.
Exactly. Yeah. And we do go into healing some of those ancestral wounds, like you said, in initiation, which begins on April 24th. And we continue on. I mean, we continue on the conversation. Like I said, we were having this conversation in the second part of the course, which is calibration, where we go into planetary influences, but we were talking about the moon, you know, the moon and how that's tied to the sacred feminine, into emotions, into intuition, and that we can do this. I mean, that we can do this work, that we're supported in doing this work. And it might feel yucky to look at that part of yourself, especially, you know, if you were the perpetrator. It doesn't matter whether you were the victim or the perpetrator. It feels yucky to have to face and look at those things. That's why we call it shadow work. But it's a necessary part of claiming and becoming whole and owning that part of ourselves, and forgiving and integrating that part of ourselves, so that we can show up in a better kind of a way, where, you know, we're really truly being of service to the planet and to other people, and
to ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's part of self-mastery.
Right.
And some of that, a lot of that, at least for me in my path, has been self-forgiveness.
Yeah, exactly.
Remove the self-betrayal and step into self-forgiveness, and then move forward accordingly.
Yes. Yeah. Well, awesome. If you want to join us in any of that sacred space and sisterhood, again, please click on our website for Alchemy Mystery School, and join us for our contribution and wanting to help in expanding consciousness.
Absolutely. Hope to see you in circle.
All right.